Why this song is unique.
Hi, I'm Lance.
And I'm Ben.
And we are Klickfoot. And this is
episode number 9 of Why This Song Is Unique.
And we have decided, because we have a tendency to do this every now and then, we pick a song, we talk about the song, but because we have a unique person in the studio with us today, we decided to discuss a career. Why this song is unique, because what they made, Dread Zeppelin, was so unique that you can't really just pick a song. You can say all these albums are so unique, and we have Mr. Gary Putman of Dread Zeppelin.
And I poke holes in my guitars too.
Yes.
The playing is competent, I guess I've been told, but I got these guitars with holes in them, so that's pretty bitchin'.
Well, he's in Dread Zeppelin, and but he's been in a lot of things, and I've played him, and Ben's played him for over 20 years, but he doesn't talk a lot. And so I've always found Gary tells me a story, and as long as I've played with him, I'll hear a story, I go, I've never heard that story. So we finally decided, look, let's just sit down. We'll talk about Dread Zeppelin and the success that Dread Zeppelin's had. But more, I want to talk just about Gary, about his upbringing.
Oh my God, this is exciting.
Yeah.
I don't do this very much.
And this is
Go ahead, Ben.
So Gary
Yes.
was first involved with the band, the Prime Movers. What can you tell us? Did Dread Zeppelin come out of the Prime Movers? These are a couple of vinyl
did.
albums.
Yeah, it did. In fact, if I can look, and I remember.
They'll be in the window.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah, this is when it was a 3-piece, and then this is the Island. You know, so we got signed by Island
Records.
and that's like an EP, and that's with another singer that I don't know if you're asking me this, but we had this 3-piece band, and then we.
So this is an independently released
Yeah,
record.
but did where they came from Europe and signed us, the same with U2's guys. But they signed us when they said, "What would you think about getting a singer?" You know, I'm looking back at it now, and I don't. But we were so excited,
Right.
and you knew that. I don't know if you guys are. Is this part of? Am I answering the question?
Bud, it's your
No,
show.
no. So I'm just trying to. So it's a 3-piece, and then like, what about a frontman? And it was like the biggest label in the world, literally at the time, and
Island.
biggest label in the world. And so we're just like, we're gonna. We said yes because first of all we thought like, well, if he's good, maybe it would be all right.
Oh, I'd heard
But
that when
we didn't know him. We didn't know him, but
well,
there were 3 of us were friends and grew up in the area where we all kind of knew each other.
But I heard when he left you that he joined Van Halen.
He did. And that's that's stuck in my craw. I'll tell you right now. This is BS. I'm sorry.
We got to get Gary to tell us his David Lee Roth stories.
But it was exciting, and you guys know that I'm kind of like a metal guy too, and the producer of that, if you look in Judas Priest, Yngwie Malmsteen, Thin Lizzy, hugely famous British producer that came and lived with my mother and father, for a time, and that's so we made that record in Hollywood. And I know I'm giving you a long answer. When we would finish the sessions, I would go down, and Lance knows more about this than Ben. I would go down to Santa Monica and Highland, which,
ladies and gentlemen, microphone drop.
Didn't really have that much to do with the album itself, but that's just what happened back then. So
He was known as 5 Cent Gary.
5 cent. But now I'm 50 cent.
50 Cent Gary.
Okay.
But anyway, that's
gotta
back
keep
then.
you guys-
But it was exciting, and it
Hey, we
was
got to
exciting.
control the show. We're trying to put a lid on this.
And we got to tour in Europe with the band Big Country, which is sort of another band.
in a big country.
Yes.
What year would that have been?
86 or 87, I guess.
Really, that early?
Yeah.
And this was Prime,
It's a
the
long
Prime
time.
I
Movers.
mean, you guys
Yeah, this
didn't
is
get
the
on
prime mover.
MTV till 90s, 1990, 89, 90.
Well, you mean?
Oh, no,
you
wait
mean-
a minute.
You,
That's
are
Dread
you mean the
Zeppelin.
prime?
I'm not thinking.
But
You're
we
correct.
got on MTV a little bit, but not, just a little bit, but enough to where we got to go.
I think we need to go.
We had a European hit, and
Ben,
that's
if
why
you
we
go
got to tour.
online, you can find that band playing at the Whiskey A Go Go. It's
Maybe.
somewhere. There's a footage of Gary playing at Whiskey A Go Go.
It might be. And
I've
you
seen it.
know, you've seen these documentaries about, and you guys know about Madame Wong's.
Yeah. Oh, remember that?
Well,
Yeah.
that's where that band. That's where they came.
That was your home?
That was kind of like, and then all of a sudden you guys are getting signed. So that's what happened. So it was a contingency where we thought like, we kind of, in hindsight, we probably should have said no because we didn't know the guy, and he ended up being really Bono-y, like really like everybody think like let's be like Bono.
Yeah.
That's true, and I hope he doesn't see this, but that's just like it's so true. And we weren't like that with the three-piece. It would be Joe and I would sing, and it was very unique. That's why they wanted to sign us. It's just unique. You guys have your own Western California thing.
Yeah, they did.
But at the same time, they wouldn't have said, "How would you like to get a singer?" You know, they wouldn't have said it. So in hindsight, I don't really regret it. It was like there was some good stuff came out of it. And that guy, that singer is still doing music. You know, he's in a band he plays with Rusty Anderson. You know, Paul McCartney's guitar. He's always that world. He's Orange County world. Frankly, I think they're possessed by the devil, the Orange County people, because we had some other guys in the band from, but anyway, he's a great singer and puts out great stuff.
You look like the drummer in U2 in that photo. That's all I got to say.
That's right. Well, I love
Larry Mullen Jr.
Yeah, we had a
Jr.
thing. You know, he's not in Las Vegas. He's not in the residency.
That's right.
What the frick?
Right,
What
so
the
Gary,
frick?
I don't know how this has anything to do with your career.
But it reminds. I think of that. I think of Island and U2. I'm like, I think of U2 because it's like, you know, we were, you know, same label and that. But not that, but just the fact that it was the same kind of time.
Sure. So
but Van Halen were still playing at the time. I was go see them too.
That's right.
Yes.
So the first Dread Zeppelin album.
Yes.
How did Dread Zeppelin form?
Wait a minute.
Wait
a minute. You've got to ask two questions. I'm being
Go ahead.
left out here.
Go ahead.
You know, it's part of my show too.
Yeah, it
I'm
is.
just saying. I think the writer strike's over. I get to speak again. That's all I got to say.
You're going to usurp. You're doing a usurpage.
Before we get to Dread Zeppelin, I just would like a little background. So, you're a kid. You got mom and dad.
Right.
You say to your mom and dad, "I want to play guitar." Did they go buy you a guitar? Did somebody loan you a Tesco and a Fender Twin? How in the world did you end up playing a guitar?
I never. This is so fun because I've never even been asked any questions or even thought about it.
Well, that's because I'm a professional
you're very
interviewer.
good at this. Nobody ever asked, or I never said I'm going to play guitar. What that was my older brothers. They brought guitar into the house, and so it's just lying around. It was never for me. It was always my brother's guitars, but I ended up
acoustic or electric?
Electric.
Oh. Did they have an amp?
A Fender Champ, a Tweed. Where is it, dude? You know
Would
how it
you
is.
love to
I
have
destroyed it. I cut the speaker. I was trying to make it distort probably back then.
Oh my god. Yeah. Oh my god.
But you know how and
sure.
like a fucking Champ.
I've destroyed more.
It looks
guitars.
exactly like the amps that you have now,
Yeah.
and if it's small.
Yeah, the smaller.
And
5 watts.
everybody knows I think that's the Layla amp. That's the amp that the fucking you can't say. You can't.
I don't know. This is a grown-up show. It's not for kids.
Okay. Anyway, so that's what
That's
it was.
how
So I
you
just
end up
picked it
getting
up
guitar.
and
Your first band, how old? 13, 14?
was that with Volpe? I mean,
I don't
that
know.
might have been
You
that
can't ask me that.
That must
question.
have been first bands. No, I think I was older than that. I think I was well older than that.
Really?
I don't think there was any like band. I think it was Volpe, and then that band was just like we'd write some of our own songs, but mainly it was like going to the river and
You were out of high school
playing
then.
Foreigner or Styx or something like that.
But you were out of high school.
Oh yeah, it
Really?
wasn't early.
Oh.
I remember played some, but it wasn't. There was no band. I can't think of any band.
I got thrown out of a kids club in the 8th grade
Yeah,
because we weren't good enough.
Yeah, but you had a band, which is
I had a band.
Yeah,
Didn't improve my life at all.
No,
But so
that was later. So I think it was Volpe. And
Jim Volpe, the drummer.
Jimmy Volpe. And I think it was within these guys that we, Glenn, who you know, and Glenn.
Right.
But I think that, I don't know. I think that I can't think of a band before that. And I remember writing a couple of songs and then, whatever. So, but I played up to that point. But there was no bands. Just maybe.
So the first band you were in were these groups?
No, the first band would have been with Volpe, whatever cover band that was.
I see.
Grand Avenue, or there was another band called Mandela. That's the band that played with Van
Right.
At
Yeah.
the Pasadena Civic.
Sure.
That they have
The
you seen that
recording.
plaque
I got
up
the
there?
recording of that.
I know it's not related to Van Halen, but I can't help it. So I could be wrong, but I can't think of any bands.
Okay.
Before
All right. Well, that gives me kind of the youth
Yeah,
aspect. I wanted to get
just
that
like,
in.
Like I somehow met. I don't know. I don't know how I met those guys.
Because I still got legitimate questions I've always wanted to ask you, and we're always playing, so it's like, we don't have time to really sit and chat about it.
We have a 15-minute break, and then we have.
All right, so go ahead, Ben. Now you can ask a question.
Well, I
It's
just
in the
wanted to know,
contract.
how did the Prime Movers band morph into Dread Zeppelin?
We had like looking back on it now, other people probably wouldn't see it this way, but I'm like, it's pretty exciting. Even that's a major label and had some chart success in Europe. So we came back from the big country tour. Then we did Lance knows this, the Thomas Dolby, the entire North American tour of the Aliens Ate My Buick, opening for him in this band, the Prime Movers. Came home, and then, but if you're asking how Dread Zeppelin started, it's not. There's no simple answer as far as
Okay,
I
so
can,
all I
don't
can
know.
say in this.
So we came back from the Thomas Dolby tour, and then that's when Dread Zeppelin started.
So obviously, you guys got dropped by the label.
Yeah,
You got dropped.
Yeah,
So you had
yeah,
nothing to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's just an EP, but it did have European chart success and that. So, but you're right. Yeah, we got dropped.
And
yes,
this is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Here, this one.
Okay,
Yeah.
so my question is
but
this.
we didn't get dropped from till much. Well, yeah, no, yeah.
Well, I've always wondered this because, there's stories the Beatles were sitting around. Yeah, let's call it Beatles. It beat and Beetle. Where in the world were you at when somebody had this idea of, let's play Led Zeppelin and do it to a reggae beat?
Do you want? I mean,
how did
I'll
that-
try to
the
explain
first
without
time
taking
that
up too
ever
much
started?
time. But see, that's not how it happened. Here's how it happened.
Okay.
We got together years back. The Ed Zeppelin guy and everybody. We were all together, trying. I guess just for fun, trying to figure it out. Not because we felt like we had to, because we all knew what happened. But if somebody were to ask me a question like you, this would be my trying to be a quick answer. It's like, got back from the Thomas Dolby tour, and like, okay, so whatever. And then Joe and I were signed by Almo Irving and spent a couple of years writing more Prime Mover songs, or just songs for people. And that's how we lived. And
So
also,
you guys got a publishing.
and
deal
that's
just
how.
to write.
And then Joe put out records after that. If you look, you'll see
You're talking
Spooked
about-
and,
you're
and
talking
all the
about-
records that Lee is still putting out were recorded at A&M. That's where Eddie would come in with Patty Smythe. No, I told you all that stuff. So there's a break, and we were then it's and
What are you,
and
someone's kitchen?
Everything's always instigated by Joe. It's always
Joe Ramsey.
always
Joe
instigated by
Ramsey.
Joe.
Joe Ramsey,
If you're gonna do something, it's because he said let's do this.
Right.
So we were playing. I don't know why. You guys know this club incredibly well. It was Richards Inn. It's called the Sunset, and then it was called Nano Cafe now. And
In Sierra Madre, California.
So it was the Prime Movers, but we're playing with somebody, and I can't remember who. But I was playing with Joe, and during the course of the night, we switched. Normally I was the guitar player.
Right.
I was like, we'll switch. So I was told by the Ed Zeppelin guy who was there that night, just happened to be there, that Joe was playing a Led Zeppelin song, and that I on the bass started playing it reggae style.
So there was no conversation.
There's no conversation.
It just happened.
And well, so this is exactly how it happened, and it couldn't have happened any other way. Because so does that make sense so far?
Sure.
So we're playing, and there was a drummer. I can't remember who it was. Greg Tor, the singer might know. He might go, you were playing with me. I can't remember. That could be. We could have been playing with Greg already, where he was Gregelbert Torteldink before he was Tortelvis.
As the drummer.
He may have been the singer.
Yeah.
But he may have been. I don't know. I can't remember. But
Tort, good drummer.
yeah,
a very good drummer.
Yeah. He's
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
He's the Elvis on
so
stage.
As far as I was told,
Crawl.
because it was told to us that Joe was playing. We switched, joking. I'm playing bass. Joe does play guitar, and I do play bass. Some,
Right.
some, but not. I didn't play a lot of bass.
And what song? Do you have an idea what song you were playing?
No, but it was something, and I was joking around, making it reggae, and then I think Joe started playing it reggae too. So one of the Ed Zeppelin Fernandez brothers who were there said, Dread Zeppelin, because it was okay. So that's how that happened.
That's how you remember.
Accident.
That's how
Nobody
you
had planned
remember.
it. And then when we went to practice in my parents' garage. Greg, the Tortelvis guy, as a joke, because he had been Gregelbert Torteldink in Arcadia at I don't know if you remember the restaurant. I can't remember. He used to sing. Sometimes for fun they would sing at a piano bar. He was Gregelbert Torteldink doing Engelbert Torteldink or whatever, whatever, kind of impersonating and having fun. He, as a joke, when we started to have what would Dread Zeppelin sound like? I gave it the rhythm. I was always the guy that gave it where the bass drum goes. Yeah. You guys know how I am about it.
Right.
And he jokingly started singing like Elvis and doing like that, which is one of the characters he did as Gregelbert Torteldink. It was Elvis, and we all just laughed, and that was it.
No master plan.
There was never. But then that's it, but then like we always talking about Joe, but it was Joe's like, we're starting a band called Dread Zeppelin. And he booked the Ice House, and it sold out before anybody had ever heard a note or even seen it. We'd never played a note, ever. And it sold out. The police came, and then I'm getting ahead of myself, but then we started playing all the clubs and selling them out. And Palomino
was Sting
was
there?
when Supertramp's manager came, and IRS, which is another major label, came and signed us to a multi-record deal. And that's what I did for the next 24 years, But we don't do it now.
So this is Dread Zeppelin's.
That's the first one.
And this came out at a time where vinyl was not really happening.
No. God, well, I have picture discs of that and vinyl. And
oh, is that right?
Yeah.
So I don't have that.
I don't have. I have a little of everything, but I didn't keep it like some people would. But I still have copies of that sealed on vinyl.
But this was your first official released record, and this is on IRS.
Yes,
so
that's Carl.
And where was
and
that
the Fernandez
recorded?
guy, and also Kurt from the Prime Movers. So it's Kurt, Joe, and I from the Prime Movers, but we all knew Carl because we had gone to Europe with Jimmy back in the 70s.
Carl Haas.
Carl Haas.
Yeah, Carl Jaw. Yeah.
So where was that recorded?
This record?
Yeah.
Well, that's what.
That's
remember, we were talking about this.
Capitol
before.
Records?
You thought it was a Europe.
Oh,
It
yeah,
was
I
a
thought it was Europe.
Dave Stewart, Eurythmics' backyard, because our engineer Lee, who had just done Shake Your Moneymaker, the engineer on Black Crowes, was part of our thing. We were always friends.
Yeah.
He toured with us in Europe with the Prime Movers. He was part of the sound guy, I believe, and so he was Dave Stewart's engineer, and we're the Traveling Wilburys. That's where I met George Harrison.
Yeah.
The whole thing, and so we would go up there at night because he goes. They want me to break the equipment, so we recorded the entire first album, Lee and Joe, and then us going up there.
How long did it take to work out a song to the idea that you ended up recording?
It sounds like you think I'm joking, but not very long.
Really?
I mean,
Whatever came out was...
Yeah, just like it was always like the song would take us. Because we had that sort of, for a long time, we had that was going to be reggae.
Right.
You sort of knew.
You kind of knew where you're going.
And then what kind of sort of like hopefully entertaining, funny twist you can do on it, because you I don't know. You know what? I mean, one of the reasons it took on that element, even though the Prime Movers were like pretty serious, almost what they would call like, all those European bands, Echo and the Bunnymen, we were like kind of inspired by those bands. And at the same time, everybody knows I was inspired by Sunset Strip metal. So I'd have a whammy, Floyd Rose on my guitar. They'd like, that's fucking George Lynch from Dokken does that, So anyway,
I've just got a few of these that I've collected over the years. What can you say about any of these? Are just various records that they released.
We've always put out records all the time and different ones. But that's what. So wait, I didn't finish that though. So we recorded the entire first album
At Dave Stewart's.
At Dave Stewart's, and it didn't. By that time we were probably playing around a lot.
Yeah.
But I think we recorded the album early, and then when we did our second record for IRS, it was some studio in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I don't even know where the entire record. And
if
you're a Dread Zeppelin fan, I swear there's a lot of cool. I think there's a lot of. It's all cool, but the first two albums and the second one is like sort of a continuation of the first, but then we got this drummer. Because I'm just saying, if you're asking these questions about like you recorded the first album. During all that, we get signed to a major label, and I believe, and he's a friend of mine, and I still play with him. But he told me that his wife's like, "You're not going anywhere." Maybe I'm being too harsh, and maybe I'm misrepresenting. But it was just like, and we had already been doing the get in the van and go to all of North America and sleeping on the floor, just like every fucking band will tell you, like hundreds of dates, And so we had already started to do that, and maybe he did that a little bit. She's like, "You're not doing that." So then we got Paul Maselli, the second drummer, who plays a lot of different instruments and everything like that, and is an entrepreneur, but he's a bitchin' drummer. And it's like, so when you listen to that second album, it's just like it's still really good. If you don't like the idea of Dread Zeppelin by the second album, okay, you're like, well, but if you do like it and you like AC/DC and you want us to keep kind of doing the Dread Zeppelin thing. Both records sound great, but man, the second album was more organic, where it was like everybody was in a room, it's cliche, like everybody's in a room playing, and it has, and you can hear that sound. He's just a monster drummer. He plays like the original. Plays like Steve Adler to me. He just has that snap and that feel. Who's the Guns N' Roses on? I think he was on one album, right?
Yeah.
So anyway,
Short life.
so that's the second.
I'd heard that he died in a bizarre gardening accident.
That's right.
That's a Spinal Tap reference right there.
But the
All right, no, but I will say this.
Different.
I'm not here to sell Dread Zeppelin records, but I will say this. The other day we were doing a gig, and Ben had put a Dread Zeppelin song on the in-between music. And we took a break. We took break music, and this music came on. We were playing up in the mountains. And I remember walking away from the stage, and the song came on. And I went, man, that is a well-recorded record. It's just well done.
Was it something from the first album?
Well, yeah,
it was.
It's this album.
Yeah. That's the one. That's the one that.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's just beautiful.
I was told was that year like their best-selling album. I'm not sure, but if not the best-selling, one of the best-selling. Same year that Black Sabbath released an album called Tyr, T-Y-R, on IRS, but not Ozzy as a singer, but the rest of the band. And we sold more than them, so that's why we got to make 3 albums for IRS because we sold
enough to get staying.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the question you're asking, but
all right, I got a story about this.
But
go ahead.
Answering to you're talking about the sound of that record.
Uh-huh.
We would go up and we recorded it pretty. You were asking like, well, not recording, but how long to write? It didn't take very long to write, so we recorded them pretty quick too. But there's examples. The example I can think of on that first album was. So one day we would all go up there to do a track, and Joe and Lee had taken like a omnichord, like something like a electronic little Casio rhythm machine,
it's white,
and and built a whole track over that. If you listen to Your Time Is Gonna Come on there, you'll listen. You can hear it. It's like this thing that you have here.
They're like $1,000 now. You want an omnichord?
And it adds a fidelity, but that's this. You know, I'll finish with that. You were asking about that, just like you like the quality. It's like. Yeah. That whole record was recorded in the same place where the Wilburys recorded. Yeah. That's where
it's
George
just
Harrison,
solid.
George
very
Harrison.
solid.
Yeah, and it's just like, and already Lee knowing how to. And I agree in my opinion too. You know how like after time goes on, everybody's kind of like second guessing, like sounds good, but I'd do it different, and we're all like that,
right?
Because I was in charge of all these other records that got them with Howard that we made with Howard, and I liked them too. But whenever you listen to that, I'm just like, you could. That's what you're responding to, and you know about that. Yeah. It's something beyond the band. Like that's where the studio matters. And we also think that about that Prime Movers EP, the one with Greg Markell, the singer. The sound of it is like because it's the guy from fucking Thin Lizzy and Judas Priest, it's Chris Tangarides, who saw a little bit of metal in us. Where they didn't see that, and I was always there too. But so there is a quality of recording there too that he knows from recording Yngwie and all those guys.
Well, I want to know about this book.
Okay.
Dread Zeppelin is featured in this Led Zeppelin coffee table book.
There's a picture of us in the book. Yeah, I swear none of us know. It's funny. None of us really know too much about it. It's British based, and
I'll put it up here on the screen. But look, here is the picture.
Yeah, that's
of Dread Zeppelin.
I wanted to get to tell that story. The first time I ever saw this.
You can edit it.
This is
start all over again.
This is the night. Gary and I were playing at a place called the First Cabin. It's in Arcadia, and Gary walks in with the Led Zeppelin book.
I never talk about shit, but I had to
never.
Show I had to show people.
This is why I can tell this story, which is Gary never tells you anything, and then he'll tell you something obscure, and you'll go, "What? That happened to you?" Well, he brings this book in, and he goes, I just got this book today. And he just takes it, he opens it up, and Dread Zeppelin's in the center of...
It's like a coffee table.
The coffee table Led Zeppelin book.
Origin is British.
And for those that don't know this, the only group that is endorsed by Led Zeppelin to play Led Zeppelin music, only group in the world, is Dread Zeppelin. They were so impressed with what they did to Led Zeppelin songs. This is why it's worth your education. If you've never heard of these guys, you've never bought a record, take the time to research them. It's a fascinating study in how somebody can create the world's greatest music, and someone else can come along and go, yeah, that's really good, but we want to do it this way. And then when you hear it, you're going, who even thinks that up? And that's how they ended up in the center of a Led Zeppelin book, which to me is just mind-boggling, but great. It's a great story. And you can see Jimmy Page not Jimmy Page, the lead singer, my brain.
Plant.
Robert Plant talking about it, that he heard the record and he went, yeah, those guys are good.
There's a whole legal thing that they had to do with the Memphis Mafia, which is Jerry
Right.
Schilling. They had to meet with Jerry Schilling.
Right.
Can we? And he almost said no. And Jimmy Page was against it too. And Robert Plant, from what I understand, talked him into it. He goes, "Come on,
Come on.
they're not going to sell that many records."
That's right. And you're gonna take our name.
He didn't. So that's why it was always a champion. And again, on that same subject, like you're talking about this, but another thing that was always fun for us, and for me too, just like that really happened, was all the Rolling Stone stuff. Like from the very first feature in Rolling Stone to later that year, we were the surprise hit of the year. Black Crowes were the best new artists. Dread Zeppelin were surprise hit of the year.
Right.
It was
We
like
were already
1991.
like at
92.
about, I don't know, everybody conflicted on the numbers too, but back in those days when it was albums and there was a record company that would release your thing, you
Pre-SoundScan.
never really heard about it unless you were signed to a record
Right.
company, especially a major label.
Yeah.
So all that stuff was for about 3 years. They would have us in random notes, pictures of us sitting around Greg, semi-regularly, not every month, but a lot.
Yeah.
And we're in the Columbia Album Club because our albums sell, all that kind of stuff. So it's all Rolling Stone, surprise hit of the year in 1990, and then there isn't anything. Back then it was like real records, right? This was a long time ago, and then real magazines,
Right.
Magazines.
Yeah, but you also got the cover. I mean, let's face it.
What's that?
The cover of the Stone. You got the cover of the
No, not the.
I thought Torque got on it.
No, we're never on the cover. No, he was on the. We were on the cover of lots of magazines.
Oh, I could have swear it was the
Not
Stone.
the cover of Rolling Stone, but a big.
My fault.
A giant, not giant, but a full-length feature on Dread Zeppelin. And at that time, we'd already sold, like over 250,000 records, which is astronomical for an
Unknown band.
and for a joking band too. Kind of a joke.
Novelty.
Novelty band. The only other one that anybody can think of is Al Yankovic being signed to
Sure.
a novelty band being signed to a major label. Which also, in hindsight, I think about this too. Is like it was IRS, which is, you guys know, is
The Police.
no, yeah, Copeland,
Yeah,
Copeland.
Miles Copeland, right.
So Miles Copeland signed us. He's English.
Yeah.
And Ian Copeland is his brother, who is our in charge of booking. It's called FBI Booking Agency. Booked us all of our international tours, and then that's Stuart Copeland's brothers. They're his brothers, Stuart Copeland from the Police, the three of those guys. But IRS was a reggae label. There was a reggae connection where, like, why would they sign us? And it was because there was a reggae base to us, and because of he had worked with Bob Marley. So
Okay, so Life on the Road. Life on the Road.
Life on the Road, yeah.
Strangest thing that happened to you on the road. Just something off the top of your head. Something that happened to you went, like, I remember David Lee Roth saying one time, and I thought this was really interesting.
Say Quiet Riot.
Yeah. I thought it was just an interesting thought. He says he was in Paris and he liked to get up really early, like 4 a.m. And he would ride his bike around Paris at 4 a.m. There was nobody out. And I said, that is the most interesting story, because a road show would be that way. You had hookers in the room, coke, and we're throwing TVs out the window. And Dave told the story riding a bike in Paris at 4 a.m. So I figured, in your life playing in Dread Zeppelin, something happened that you say, I always remember this. I always remember this thing that happened to us on the
tour, but
yeah,
not
something
necessarily
doesn't have to be
band
great or anything. It could just be a story of, I remember eating chicken and donuts.
Carl had his thing that he would do.
Carl Jaw.
Yeah, he would somehow, like, get up before me and utilize that time a little more than I did, and I think he would like to go to pawn shops or something like that. Or
Sure.
So if I'm trying to answer that question, I think if I had a thought about that, when you do especially, not just the international touring, but touring, just international or wherever, I think I had this conscious thing, and I think that some of the other guys in the band called it Butt Boys Theater of the Macabre, because I would go to Dachau by myself.
By yourself?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, any place like that could happen, or I'd go to the Potomac, but near...
Where the plane hit the
hit the
fin.
Right, or I'd go to Dealey Plaza, like every time I was in Dallas.
Oh, I had to do that.
Yeah.
I had to do that.
And there were other places too, and then run up. I was a runner, run up and down the steps at Georgetown, the Exorcist steps, or just whatever. And then in Europe, but whatever, there was a lot. But I went to more than one, of the concentration camps where
Unbelievable.
you get on a train and and just like because you'd have the time. So if that's what you're talking
Yeah,
about,
that's exactly it.
Some of the time of like, but other than that, you guys know this too. For me, it was like. It started in like 1988. I go, I have to exercise, or I'm going to die. And other people, the touring got too much. Greg
It's tired.
Greg would tell you he had almost a nervous breakdown. Yeah. And there was times in Europe where we'd be on the phone to our manager who managed Supertramp.
Stop booking us.
I was in tears.
Yeah.
And Greg wasn't crying. I was actually crying.
Yeah.
And then somehow they just sort of, what's the word, assuage or sort of massage you. And then like the next day you're headed to Munich and you're like, okay, it was just, you know how it is.
Right.
It was just
You're tired.
Overwhelming.
Yeah.
It was overwhelming. And we were younger and in shape. So my whole thing was, Carl would go out, but I would find anywhere. It could be the basement with pipes in a German place, and I would do my little, not incredibly long workout, but 30 or 40 minute workout that I had. That to this day I don't miss it. When I'm playing with
This
you,
is
if
no
I do
joke.
2 gigs with you,
We're in Idaho.
I'm going.
We're up in Idaho playing.
Yes.
And Gary, we're like got nothing to do. We're at a hunting ranch. We're at the band playing. And Gary, I look over in the room and hearing this, and you look around the corner. Gary's doing sit-ups and doing. That was like 5 years ago. You were still get up and do it.
Longer than that, but yeah, no, but that was something that I just
That part
had
of
in
your
my mind, and I'm just saying right now. I'm thinking like I'm still not going to change my mind on that because I can't go and play with you. I can't.
Right.
I can't fucking play. I can't. Play through my new Demeter amp that my friend let me borrow last night. It's like they're $2,000.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
sorry, I got a subject.
So what song was on the radio in Europe? Do you remember?
What for Dread Zeppelin?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I'm talking about Prime Movers on the trail.
Oh, on the trail. Oh,
God,
great
when
song.
we were in Europe,
I
they
love On the
played
Trail.
everything. They played Heartbreaker,
Yeah, Drew.
which was also Rush Limbaugh's bumper song, our version of Heartbreaker.
Really?
Months that Carl going Rush Limbaugh. So I don't care for.
Now Dread Zeppelin has a speaker, so
Yeah, but we were just like we'd go. Everybody call each other up. He's using our fucking.
that's great.
On Rush Limbaugh, which is 640.
Oh, look at that! Look at that!
What do you know about this?
Just a picture back in the day that.
Let me see that.
And then what happened? You know what I think it is? I think if you look, I could be wrong. Carl knows more than me. Ross Halfin and another guy, Ross Halfin, who's the premier British rock photographer, does Led Zeppelin, and there was a whole bunch of stuff. We really covered a lot of Europe by Kerrang magazine, which was a heavy metal magazine.
So I remember Carl, that hair. That's the hair I
and
remember.
So Dread Zeppelin were in that magazine a lot. Kerrang, it was called Kerrang, and it was real bright colors, and I think that was a Kerrang Ross Halfin.
Who are the people? Name the band members here.
Okay. Let me look over. I was talking about him earlier. Paul, the drummer, who went by Fresh Cheese and Cheese, replaced the original drummer. Joe, the guy that to take all the ideas.
Organizer,
and do something.
right?
But what was the stage names that you?
Oh, I'm sorry. Fresh Cheese and Cheese.
Okay.
Paul, Joe. Which is, think about it for a second. We used to Dread Zeppelin. Paul, Joe, right?
John Paul.
Yeah. Or Ringo. Hang on, go ahead.
Carl
Carl Hosses.
Nice guy.
Tord
Nice
Elvis,
guy.
Whose daddy was Daddy Telvis, and he's Tord Elvis.
Okay.
Which is, he's not an Elvis impersonator, and still isn't to this day. He's
Interpreter.
Yeah, he has his, that's right.
Yeah.
He takes it and does something.
He's got the craw.
Yeah,
He's got the craw.
Kind of comes from Elvis, but he's not trying to be Elvis. You look at him, he's like, there's another dimension that's not normally there for the.
Could it be the paper sideburns?
Yeah, stuff like that.
I love it.
Because the other guys actually grow their
Right.
hair. I know, you're talking
He
about-
actually taped them on.
And the other guys, which were critical to this reason, Robert Plant endorsed and everything he would talk about, and then they did the reggae, and he went the reggae guy, and that's, if you listen to especially their first record, there was two twin brothers that are both musicians, and so this is Bryant Fernandez and his brother, and then he couldn't go because the touring was
Too much.
giving people nervous breakdowns. So his brother, an identical twin, came, and that was great because he was great.
How many
and
gigs-
He loved it. And he was there for years.
How many gigs a week were you guys doing
Back in like the day of the major league.
that wore you out? Yeah.
God, 150 a year, 150.
Oh yeah, that would get tiring.
Oh, I was telling you, we would call and go, we want to come home, and they're like, you can't come home.
Did you guys have road crew?
We played with B.B. King and Nils Lockham, the huge Stray Cats, Dread Zeppelin, Molly Hatchet, all these big giant European festivals. The B.B. King one was like 50,000 people, or something like that.
Yeah.
And so those are the kind of tours that we were doing for the first 2 or 3 years.
And you had road
and
crew.
Australia and the Orient and all that kind
I
of
was gonna get.
Oh, we did.
You did have road crews. Yeah, I didn't know if you guys were hauling your own stuff.
We did, and then, the guy. I don't know why he's not in this picture. Where's Charlie Hodge? He should be. Charlie Hodge was who's on the cover of the second Dread Zeppelin album, which is called 5 Million, which is a take on an Elvis album.
Right.
There's like an Elvis connection to that stuff that Joe would usually come up with.
All right, I want to say one thing.
So Charlie Hodge.
You'll never get it in.
But Charlie Hodge.
Don't stop now. Did America quit when the Germans attacked Pearl Harbor?
Charlie Hodge is not in that picture. Was also the roadie. I'm just answering.
Right.
He was.
Right.
He was in the band. He was Charlie Hodge, but
he also was road crew.
Roadie, and when we did the early tours where it was just the band in North America, where you're not in overseas, it was like we all puffed our own gear then.
Yeah.
In the early days, but then we had a sound guy, a light guy.
Right.
Our sound guy was Jane's Addiction sound guy. He'd just gotten off the Jane's Addiction tour, became our sound guy for the next 3 years.
You had a crew.
And he's still a great friend.
Did he cost you a pity penny?
I don't know. You know.
All right, I want to say one thing really quick.
I was overpaid.
I got to say one thing.
I need to get
Hang on.
I want to give money back.
Ladies and gentlemen,
This is
Ben, drop it.
The first person that can tell me that they've actually watched this video all the way through so far, I will mail this sticker to you.
That's a freebie?
It is a freebie. But you got to tell me in the comments that you watched the video all the way up to this point.
What?
And be the first person.
A free sticker?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, you got a free sticker.
Watch that. Yeah, I'll watch it.
All right, so let's round it up.
Round up.
You've been watching and listening to.
No.
Does this 45 fit on there?
What's that? Go ahead, throw it in.
And then continue just to finish up the interview.
Well, listen, it was a wonderful time having you here. Thanks for telling us stories of
I'm flattered.
what a wonderful career.
About anything.
Yeah.
Very flattering.
Well, I've always been impressed. You're one of those phenomenal musicians I've got to play with.
Talking about the Speedo and the cowboy.
You got the Speedo and the cowboy boots, and it's always been, every musician can tell you a story of musicians they hate to play with. They just don't work. Gary has never been that guy. I've played with Gary for over 20 years, and never once have we fought about anything. And that whole thing where he says you make stuff up, which is now really a part of our show, it is really who he is. He just makes stuff up, and then the more you make it up, the more you make it up. And guys who don't understand what we've now done over 20 years come and sit in with us and go, this doesn't sound like the song the way I know the song. And just go, well, we don't play anything like the song. It's not, it doesn't interest us.
No, and that's what Dread Zeppelin was.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It really, I can attest to that.
Nobody did.
Yeah.
And that
I can attest to it.
I think that it's unconsciously, like any situation I've been in, it's like I sure hope it has that, or I probably won't be in it too long.
Yeah, you'll get bored.
I'm not even taking. First of all, why would I want to do that?
Yeah.
If
I know.
have something creative to offer.
I understand.
So that's what Dread Zeppelin was, and for us, we all think that. But you're right. It's not for everybody.
No.
That's
how my brain works, but
it's not for everybody. Some people are like, that's not like George Harrison did it.
Okay, we'll see you next time.
That's Ben. I'm Lance. You've been watching Klickfoot, and Gary Putman, thank you very much for being on the show. We're out of here. See you later.
Why this song is unique.